Welcome back to the Leadership Circle, where real leaders share real strategies for growth. I'm your host, Bhargavi Rathi. Today, we're exploring a big opportunity for 2025, breaking into Malaysia, Southeast, cost-effective gateway in Asian market. Malaysia offers a diverse economy, strong trade agreements and government initiatives for digital and manufacturing growth. But success here requires more than a global strategy. It takes local know-how for sustainable expansion. To help me navigate this, I'm joined by three experts who knows Malaysia inside out. First, we have Nitin Nagarajan, CEO of Global NN Group. Nitin brings over 14 years of audit and advisory experience, and having worked with SGX-listed companies, national broadcasters and scaling tech startups across Asia. He's also a chartered accountant in both Singapore and Malaysia and a CPA Australia holder. Nitin is known for his ability to decode financial complexities and work directly with the leadership teams to anticipate risk, manage compliance, and build operational clarity across quarters. Next, we have Mr. Victor, partner at RSM Malaysia. Victor is a licensed auditor and a member of both Malaysian Institute of Accountant and the ICAEW. He has extensive experience supporting both SMEs and MNC companies across logistics, IT, manufacturing, and property sector. Victor regularly leads IPO readiness and due diligence engagement, and his insights into Malaysia compliance landscapes are second to none. And finally joining us today is Quinn Lu, Senior Associate in the International Business Advisory. Quinn is certified accountant with the CP Australia and Malaysian Institute of Accountants. She brings a cross-functional perspective of how her work blends accounting, payroll, tax, and company secretarial expertise with hands-on client engagement. She has a rare ability to connect with international founders and guide them into seamlessly entering the Malaysian market. Hello and welcome everyone to the Leadership Circle. My name is Bhargavi and I'm the founder of Digital Go Where. Today we're talking about Malaysia. Malaysia has been growing rapidly on the Asia map as one of the leading country to set up companies and growing across. We have multiple speakers with us today who leads different domains and are here to guide us today why Malaysia in 2025. So let's start, and my first question starts with Quinn. Quinn, how do you guide foreign clients on choosing between different types of companies, LLP, rep office, and what is the best format to enter Malaysia market?
For your question. First of all, we would identify the goal of the business owners when they enter into Malaysia market. The easy difference between representative office and the rest are whether are they aiming to only perform market research in Malaysia. If the answer is yes, then we will recommend a representative office. Other than that, if they plan to perform activities other than market research, for example, setting up the revenue and operations strongly in Malaysia, then we would recommend SDN-BHD, which is a private limited company, or an LLP, which is a limited liability partnership. And then next we'll move on to identify what kind of structure they wish to enter Malaysia. First of all, the LLP is, when it comes to compliance, it's a little bit different compared to a private limited company. The first difference for LLP would be appointing a compliance officer, where the compliance officer will need to be residing in Malaysia, and he or she would have responsible to file the compliances like tax filing and also maintaining proper records. And so he or she will have higher responsibilities in the company roles. Whereas for SDN-BHD, they will need to appoint company secretary and also a local residing director. So yeah. And not only that, an LLP doesn't have a share structure. So in comparison to a private limited company, this part would be very much different. For this reason, an LLP usually doesn't fulfill the requirement for certain government agencies application. For example, like employment pass or maybe certain specific license requirement. For example, recruitment agency license application. LLP doesn't fulfill the requirement, so
So we go with private limited in that case.
yes, private limited company. And yeah, so in overall, we usually would recommend private limited company for its flexibility and it's very commonly used in Malaysia.
Oh, okay. So, so what I understand is the most important thing when we start up a company is actually structuring it well, right? So, when a foreign company wants to enter, you would suggest them either do a research or set up a company. So, if you're doing a research, start with rep office, and if not, then if you're directly getting into operations, start with private limited. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so my next question in this case goes to Victor. Victor, once we have selected the structure, which is the most important factor, I believe, in starting up a company, what do you think the compliance becomes the next big checkpoint, right? So, in your views, what are the most common compliance mistake and international businesses make when navigating Malaysia regulatory landscape?
Right. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the question. So one major mistake I think is assuming compliance is a one-time exercise. So of course, in Malaysia, we have ongoing obligations like annual filings with Companies Commission of Malaysia, or Suruhanjaya Security Malaysia, and the tax submissions to our Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, of which these are mandatory, even if the business is dormant. Another common issue is the failure to notify the tax authorities regarding the commencement of business, and this can especially be problematic when it comes to tax submissions later on. Also we do see that some do not maintain local documentation in the English or local language, and this is problematic when bookkeeping or audit is being performed. So to ensure that you have a compliance calendar and work with a local firm helps to prevent such from happening.
Yeah, I think this is so helpful. Like you need to make sure that when you're navigating, countries like Malaysia, you need to have someone who knows the local language very well and is maintaining all your records very well. So thank you for that insight. My next question goes to Nitin. From a financial reporting and audit standpoint, which you have been doing across multiple companies that you worked for, and now you're helping a lot of companies now. What should company keep in mind from day one to avoid audit surprises down the road?
Yeah, thanks, Bhargavi, for having me on this podcast. I think firstly, it's very important to choose the right service provider, someone that you're comfortable with and trusted with, and understands your business. And so they will actually help you from day one as you appoint them to actually handhold you through the whole audit process. And so, what are the proper records that you need to keep? What accounting system should you use? Now in Malaysia, we recently have e-invoicing, for example. So e-invoicing is an automated invoicing system. So the auditor can advise you that what accounting software automates this process. So you, in a way, choose the most efficient approach from the onset, and you're not trying to basically firefight at the end. When the auditors come or the statutory filing deadline comes, you realize, hey, I don't have proper records, or hey, no one taught me this. So I think when you come on board, come to Malaysia, it's always good to have a friendly auditor who advises you accordingly and ensure proper documentation. And like what Victor said, I think compliance is not a one-off exercise. It's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process, yes.
And so it's very important you have the right partner and you also along with you in the journey.
Right. I completely agree, because if one document goes wrong, your company can, get into a lot of troubles. So, Quinn, let's revisit the, fundamentals back and the foundation issues, companies and founders may face. How do residency and paid up capital requirements impact the entry strategy for fully foreign-owned companies?
So a mandatory requirement would be appointing one local residing director for a private limited company. And regarding the share capital requirement, it is minimum RM1 generally. However, different industry might have different requirements. For example, a recruitment agency would then have a share capital requirement between 100,000 ringgit to 250,000 ringgit. And depending on their industry again, for example, a WRT license would require 1 million ringgit. So yeah, it applies differently.
Any exceptions for startups or anything that a startup owner can take benefit from?
It really highly depends on the industry, and usually if we speak about IT services industry, the general requirement would be starting from 1 ringgit, but again, we'll need to look at the business nature closely when during engagement.
Okay, thank you for that. And Nitin, my next question goes to you in that case. So let's say I am, let's shift from partnership and acquisitions. From a due diligence perspective, what should foreign investors validate before, signing a deal or forming a JV in Malaysia?
I think that's a good question. So when you're coming into Malaysia, I think it's important to have a good experience, like I shared previously. So I think a basic due diligence is actually who you're actually partnering with. In terms of a JV, is it an existing company or is it a new company? If it is an existing company, you want to definitely get a financial due diligence done to see if there's any exposure. For example, if you become a director in a company, right, you can also be liable for the income taxes and other sort of liabilities that are will actually make you personally liable. So I think basic due diligence of who's your local partner, whether they actually fulfill the requirements of what is the intention of your JV. I think it's very important also once you have the JV partner to also have a good shareholder agreement. I think Quinn will also allude to this because in times when you form a company, shareholder disputes is what I see is very common. And at the start everything is very happy-go-lucky and everyone are friends. But I think the real issue comes about when the business operationalizes and there are disputes, and so who is the succeeding party, who is the party that actually gets bought out. I think those are issues that should be dealt with at the onset while you're coming on board.
Right. As you rightly said, when we start up a business, we just start up like that, like friends have started a company, right? But when we scale up, we definitely come up with a lot of problems coming up. But that is, I think, very different from when a foreign company comes to Malaysia, right? Because they are already structured or they already have something in place and hence they're looking to expand, right? Would you like to add something on to that?
Yeah, I think for a foreign company, but we do see disputes in the market. So while they both come into the market, right? Sometimes the local JV partner has a competing business later on. So I think it's still very important that the shareholder agreement and all that has already been formalized in terms of the non-compete and those sort of areas.
Okay. I agree. I think we should just make sure the paperwork are done right in the starting itself. Okay. Nitin, my next question comes to you. And this is very important because you have clients operating across multiple regions, right? How do Malaysia tax audit practices compared with the places like Singapore or Australia or mid-sized firms for mid-sized firms?
Okay, I think if you look at the different jurisdictions, maybe Singapore, Australia, Singapore, for example, right, is all automated. And so Malaysia is on the journey towards automation. So one of the things is e-invoicing. But Malaysia, we are largely very fragmented. When I say fragmented, I mean customs have their own system. LHDN, which is our local tax authority, have their own system. SSM have their own system. The integration of all these three systems are not really there yet. So it's very common in Malaysia where you can have a LHDN audit, which is a tax audit. But a few years down the road, you might also have a customs audit, and so this is still fragmented in that sense. Whereas in Singapore, I feel it's more structured, and in that sense. But I think there is an advantage in itself.
Yeah, please can you focus on the advantage, because I always see people talking about Singapore is the best place to expand, or Hong Kong is the best place to expand in Asia. But why Malaysia is coming up very well nowadays, right? It is coming up on the map, and I just want to understand what is making Malaysia stand out from the rest of the countries right now at the current situation, because other countries I see there's a lot of other situations also. So could you just expand like why Malaysia in 2025?
I think 2025 Malaysia is the right place to be because there are a lot of high impact sectors. For example, right, digital economy, green technology, right. There are a lot of incentives out here, and a lot of companies in Malaysia are looking to expand in this footprint. So our local authorities like MIDA and MDEC are actually having incentives to attract foreign companies which have all these technologies So in terms of that, right, and I think Malaysia being the ASEAN chairman this year is really pushing for a lot of investment in the region. Just yesterday, I was with some foreign guests. So they're looking at Malaysia as an opportunity, and I think a lot of the big economies like China, they're looking at Malaysia in terms of green energy and advanced manufacturing.
So that's I think that's also lead me to the next question. Let's talk about more about opportunities, and I think I want to go through everybody. Quinn, we'll start from you. So where are you seeing a lot of interest coming from? What kind of sectors? What kind of businesses? As Nitin has already said, green energy is one of the key things that I see is coming. A lot of projects are coming towards Malaysia. Anything else? Fintech, education. What do you see? What are the kind of queries that you're receiving? What sectors?
Agree with what Nitin says. In fact, we are also attracting a lot of business owners from IT services industry. One of the main factors would be if we compare Malaysia with other Southeast Asian country, Malaysia is always known for our mature and developed infrastructure, such as fiber coverage and also systematically managed electricity. So we have the stable system here, which attracts these people coming in. Not only that, in terms of Malaysia's DST framework, if we compare to some Southeast Asia country, we provide more clarity for tech giants. Some countries would have ambiguous tax submissions, which is causing frustration for business owners. And again, like what Nitin says, our government is also actively attracting high-tech industry players into Malaysia with strategy like NSS, the National Semiconductor Strategy. We are seeing a lot of search also, high search in data centers and semiconductor ecosystem coming in here.
So that's a nice topic. We should all rank your websites on that.
Yeah. In terms of the fintech, I think we're not seeing too many, mainly due to restrictions in regulations because it is a high regulated industry in Malaysia. So we see companies like Airwallex or maybe GX Bank or Eon Boost Banks, they are gradually expanding their market into Malaysia, but with in a high regulated compliance environment.
So if I'm a startup and I want to, do something in the semiconductor space, this is the right time for me to set up in Malaysia, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
So you'll get me a lot of grants.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for semiconductor related service provider to come in now.
Right. So definitely I'll pass on to a lot of people who are watching this in semiconductor space. They should know that come to Malaysia in 2025. Okay, Victor, my next question comes to you on that. It's like building on that, beyond the tech buzz, which sectors do you see are holding the strongest long-term promise for foreign investors?
Well, I think right now the green sector, energy sector, including I think as Quinn and Nitin has covered as well. So green energy sector, I think particularly solar and EV infrastructure is actually booming under the current government. Arising from tax incentives and various other incentives on paper on offer, right? So of course, with the push for sustainability, or rather the emphasis on sustainability for most companies right now, the green energy sector is what I feel is the go-to sector right now.
Okay, so I understand two things very clearly from the conversation. One is semiconductors, and the second is sustainability. So if you're working towards, sustainability in any format, this is the right time for us also to go to Malaysia. Okay, so my next question comes to Nitin. So let's layer in the government policies. Nitin, are incentives today truly aligned with the sector's foreign firms when they want to enter? Do you think, or there's some mismatch happening?
I feel they are largely aligned. Let's be very honest. Malaysia is open to the world, and we are trying to attract, interest, especially from India as well. And so they are largely aligned. There are, of course, licenses that need to be obtained. I think Quinn has shared. Some of them require the paid-up capital to be of a certain amount. But let me be very open that actually these licenses are up for grabs. And so, if the foreign company has the local technology and, expertise, right? I think in terms of getting those licenses as well as getting the expertise from abroad, is relatively easy. I think MyDeck and all the local bodies have actually tried to make this quite seamless, and a lot of the information is available online. And of course, there are a lot of people out there that can help foreign companies navigate through this stuff.
So how long does it take for, if I'm a foreign person, I've shown my interest today. So how does it take to incorporate a company for, like in Singapore, in Hong Kong, I've been talking to people, they say 1 day, half a day, something like that. But it's,
Yeah, I actually do incorporations in Singapore as well as do incorporations in Malaysia. I would say Malaysia is at the same pace as Singapore in terms of incorporation. If all the data is there, it can be done. So I've seen cases where it's done in half a day. So incorporation is not an issue. Provided you have a local director, there's no issue. A bank account opening also can be done instantaneously, depending which bank. Yeah.
okay, I think that's very helpful because I've not seen Malaysia company set up in 1 day timeline. So good to hear that in Malaysia also we can set up a company in 1 day's timeline. Okay. Quinn, now let's deep dive more little into post company incorporation. What are the top post registration steps foreign businesses often overlook or delay? Or what is it that you want to help, like one thing that you want to tell people that this is what you need to take care?
Like what Victor has shared also, we must make sure the business commencement date to be reported with IRB. Apart from that, I think a lot of business owners are also missing out, for example, statutory registration. When they start to hire employees in Malaysia, they must make sure they register with the statutory bodies in Malaysia, which is a mandatory filing in sectors like retirement scheme or social or working insurances. These are mandatory when we hire employees. And not only that, for example, business premise license when they set up an office is very important as well. And last but not least, the annual compliance like financial reporting and tax filing are mandatory regardless of the size or the activity status of the companies.
Okay. I think that is very, very important to make sure that we are aligned with all of those things. People underestimate sometimes, like, how critical these functions are, but it is very important that we have all of those things in place. Speaking of that, Nitin, local operations, do you recommend setting up a local finance team early for companies, or they should just, be looking to hire companies like you? What is the right way in the starting and as a scale up?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the company and their resources. If a company wants to have a strong presence, straight away set up a finance team. If it already has a strong head office back in India.
But they should know the local laws, right?
Yeah, so you would need to hire a local staff who's compliant with what Quinn mentioned. Like the EPF, which is the local statutory payments, registration, business premises, licenses. We need to get a local partner. And so at the early stages, I would recommend getting either the company secretary or whoever helped you incorporate to help you guide you through this registration process. That would be very good. In terms of outsourcing accounting, actually at the initial stage, you'll notice it's actually a lot cheaper to outsource. And as the company grows, then you can take it back in-house, or you just leave it all outsourced and you just focus on growing your business. Because a lot of these accounting and other functions, right, actually can be outsourced, and so your business really just focus on the core purpose.
Yeah. So, Victor, thinking ahead, how should companies structure their governments and entity setup from day one if they plan to scale beyond Malaysia also?
Well, I think if regional scale is part of any company's roadmap, I think structuring the Malaysian entity should be structured with scalability and governance in mind. And of course, as what Queen has mentioned earlier, setting up a private limited company, or of which is called Sdn Berhad, with a clear shareholding and governance framework, as this will simplify cross-border transactions, intercompany transfer pricing, and investor entry later on. And of course, also to maintain clean and auditable financials and build internal controls that support such multi-country compliance. And appoint a board early, even if it's informal, to enforce accountability.
So, my also ask would be like, for example, I am entering I'm a US company, right? And I'm trying to enter the Asia market. I would probably set up my manufacturing unit in Malaysia, and then from there I go and do my sales in other part of the Asia market. Is that right? Is that okay? Is that easy to do?
I think that really depends on where the company is heading to. Say within ASEAN region, I believe there are some there it is possible within the ASEAN region, but different country has different regulations. Like for example, as what Quinn has mentioned, setting up a rep office or Sdn Bhd. So there are different regulations in different countries, but in Malaysia, in order to operate, a manufacturing a hub manufacturing base, then a private limited company is preferable.
Okay. I'll take this question, Nitin, to you also, and probably would like your views as well. Like, is it easy to expand across through having a Malaysia company?
I think definitely having a presence in Malaysia opens the doors to our neighboring countries, especially Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, because we are all part of ASEAN, number one. Number two is our frameworks are quite similar, and there are concessions within the countries as well. Preferential tax rates and customs and all that is easier to clear. So definitely it does help a lot to have a presence in this region.
To start from Malaysia and then expand across.
And I think important to highlight our cost base is significantly lower than Singapore, for example, or Hong Kong, since you mentioned those two countries earlier. So I think as from a cost perspective, and especially I've seen in the market, a lot of companies actually have their global shared service center in Malaysia itself for this very reason. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's also a possibility. What I see, like starting from Malaysia and then expanding across different geographies. Okay, and Quinn, do you have a case you can share where early planning helped businesses not just to enter Malaysia but to expand?
For example, like Dezan Shira Associates, we provide pre-market entry advisory, so which covers areas like tariff analysis. One example is we worked with a US company who was facing tariffs due to the US-China tension, right? And their goal is to reduce the exposure to tariffs and strengthen their supply chain all around the world, especially outside of China. So, Dezan Shira and Associates, we have conducted a detailed multi-country study across eight countries, for example, India, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, and others. And we also look at wide range of factors like labor costs, infrastructure, ease of doing business, and trade agreements. So it is actually not difficult to expand overseas starting from Malaysia.
Okay, great. I think we've been talking a lot of technical stuff and a lot of, how companies have been structuring. But I want to also talk from an entrepreneur point of view. Nitin, you've been moving from Singapore to Malaysia. What makes you move from a country like Singapore to Malaysia? What is beyond the company? How is the life in Malaysia? I would like to know that insights as well.
Sure. I think as an entrepreneur, right, I think we always looking for more exciting things.
Right.
After some time becomes quite stale, to be honest. So Malaysia, yeah, good food. I think where there are challenges, there's definitely opportunities. Definitely there are a lot of things in terms of developments in Malaysia, in terms of infrastructure development. There are a lot of activities going on in Malaysia and a lot of opportunities, to actually bring some of the best practices in different countries to Malaysia. And definitely there are a lot more things to do in Malaysia compared to...
So you have mountains, you have rivers, you have water, you have everything out here for having a good family life as well. Is that correct?
It's correct, and a lot of places to see, and of course there's less people, so the congestion in places is a lot less compared to human traffic in Malaysia, in Singapore.
Okay. So, yeah, just wanted to understand, because if we as a foreign person, right, move to Malaysia, I always have this concern, like, what about the schooling to the kids? What about the environment? How will we adjust to the different new cultures? So I think it's easy out there in Malaysia as well.
Super easy, and I think on your point on children, there are a lot of international schools here. You want whichever academic system. We have also Indian international schools based in KL. So you can actually get an Indian education in KL itself. You can also get a British or American education system. So I think not to worry. There are a lot of expat groups as well in Malaysia. It's very expat friendly country. And we also have a lot of incentives for people wanting to retire in Malaysia and make it their second home. So I think the government's policy is very pro getting people to come and reside in Malaysia.
Victor, which is your favorite spot in Malaysia?
Well, yeah, I think the multiculturalism does help. So definitely, in terms of the friendliness of people towards foreigners and even to our local people is the Malaysian hospitality, I would say.
So yeah, I think I just wanted to add on these questions so that we make content little more rich in terms of end-to-end understanding of how what Malaysia brings in. Anything that you all want to add up? Anything that we missed out that people should know? Probably we can just have another 1 or 2 minutes on that. Any advice for any person entering the market?
Maybe for Malaysia, if we compare to countries like Singapore or maybe Hong Kong or even some European countries, we might not seem to be so structured. So a lot of people, a lot of business owners, when they enter into Malaysia market, sometimes they get a shock for knowing, when they got a culture shock for knowing how Malaysia do certain stuff, right? Because we're in a developing stage. We're not a mature system yet. So I would say come to Malaysia with a entrepreneurship mindset, and also we will never see less challenges when managing a company. So we need to prepare our mindset when coming to managing and also starting a business in here.
Definitely. Okay, so I think we covered everything from what a business needs to how the life is at Malaysia. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in today, and thank you for your time. And it was great to know more about Malaysia. And we'll be sharing all the contents for you to review before it goes live. So do give your feedback. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you. Bye bye.